In the savage theater of professional boxing, where precision collides with brutality and the line between legend and man is drawn not with ink but with fists, few names carry the same sense of awe and fear as Naoya Inoue. Known around the world as the Monster, Inoue is a paradox, an artist whose canvas is the human body, whose brushstrokes are jabs and crosses, and whose masterpieces often end in silence and blood. He doesn't roar, he doesn't rant, he calculates. With the face of a surgeon and the instincts of a predator, he dismantles opponents not through reckless aggression but through composed cruelty. And yet, even monsters bleed. Even those who seem untouchable must eventually confront the chaos of imperfection. Twice in recent memory, Inoue found himself doing what no one thought possible. Facing the canvas, knocked down, stunned. For a brief moment, the illusion of invincibility cracked. But in those same moments, he revealed something more terrifying than perfection: resilience. Not the kind that simply survives, but the kind that adapts, improves, and punishes. Inoue didn't just rise. He came back sharper, colder, and more focused. It wasn't just a return, it was a reckoning. This revelation reached its peak under the dazzling lights of Las Vegas on May 4, 2025, inside the cavernous T-Mobile Arena. Inoue entered the ring that night as the undisputed super bantamweight champion. He carried 4 world titles and the kind of expectation that usually breaks lesser fighters long before they lace up their gloves. At 29 years old, with an unblemished record and a trail of broken champions in his wake, Inoue had become the measuring stick of greatness. But that night, he was forced to measure himself against something far less glamorous: adversity. His opponent was Ramon Cardenas, a fighter whose name might not have stirred headlines, but who was, in the eyes of those who truly understand the sport, a formidable challenge. A 26-1 veteran, Cardenas had carved out a reputation in the sport's unforgiving margins, where every punch hurts more because nobody's watching, and every victory matters more because nobody cares. He was no media darling, no crossover star, but in the gyms, among trainers, and among the men who still tape their own hands, Cardenas was known. Known for grit. Known for discipline. Known for not folding. The opening bell rang, and the fight unfolded slowly, like a symphony's overture. Inoue moved with a crisp efficiency that has become his signature. His footwork was deliberate, his punches compact, and his defense airtight. Cardenas mirrored that energy with his own brand of precision. He wasn't there to survive. He was there to test. Both men moved like snipers, each trying to pull the other out of position, both aware that one mistake could shift the entire momentum. It was tactical, thoughtful, a chess match at high speed. Then came the second round. A moment that reminded everyone that in boxing, the quietest seconds often explode the loudest. Cardenas, patient until then, saw his opening. He let loose a looping left that detonated on Inoue's jaw with startling clarity. And in an instant, the monster dropped to the canvas. It wasn't a slip. It wasn't a stumble. It was real. Inoue sat up, his eyes wide, his mouth slightly open, blinking as if trying to rewind what had just occurred. The crowd, stunned into silence, watched as a man who had made a career out of breaking others now had to question his own footing. In those few seconds, the myth of invulnerability was peeled back, exposing something far more human beneath it all. But in that same moment, something deeper emerged. Inoue didn't panic. He didn't flail. He stood up, met the referee's eyes, and nodded. From that point forward, the fight changed, not just physically, but psychologically. Inoue was no longer the architect of a smooth title defense. He was a man rebuilding a shattered image in real time, one punch at a time. Round 3 didn't bring desperation. It brought transformation. He didn't abandon his strategy. He sharpened it. He began working the body with more intent, mixing in sharp jabs and feints designed not just to hurt but to confuse. He circled with more urgency, but not recklessness. Every step was calculated. Every punch was layered. The man who had dropped him became a target not of vengeance, but of clarity. Cardenas, for all his grit, began to feel it. His early sharpness dulled. His footwork lost a beat. The jab that had once kept Inoue honest now looked more like a placeholder. Slowly, round by round, Inoue dismantled him, not in a blaze of reckless violence, but with the steady, suffocating pressure of a technician who had solved the puzzle. By the fifth round, the shift in momentum had become a landslide. Inoue's combinations were now flowing with rhythm and power. His ability to shift angles mid-attack forced Cardenas into defensive shells he couldn't escape from. And the shots to the body, short, brutal, relentless, sapped the veteran's legs and left his punches anemic. But Inoue didn't rush. He didn't gamble. He respected Cardenas' toughness, but he also exploited it. Rather than go for a reckless finish, he simply turned the screws tighter. By the seventh, Cardenas' hands had dropped between exchanges. His breathing was heavy. Blood was beginning to pool near his mouth. But still, he refused to fall, and the eighth round, the referee stepped in. Cardenas was still upright, still throwing, still defiant. But his resistance had turned from competitive to dangerous. The standing TKO wasn't a finish, it was a rescue. And in that moment, the story wasn't just that Inoue had won. It was that he had been tested, dropped, and stunned, and he had come back more dominant than ever. But Las Vegas wasn't the first time Inoue had been forced to look up at the lights. Nearly a year earlier, on May 6, 2024, in Tokyo's hallowed dome, Inoue found himself in a moment of even greater vulnerability. That night, he faced Luis Nery, a Mexican southpaw with a style that could best be described as controlled chaos. Nery entered the ring with 35 wins, 27 of them by knockout. His reputation was one of unpredictability, of danger wrapped in defiance. He wasn't supposed to win. He wasn't even supposed to last. But from the opening bell, it was clear he had other ideas. The first round was pandemonium. Nery didn't test the waters. He jumped in head first. His shots came from awkward angles, wide and looping but fast and powerful. And before the crowd could even settle into their seats, one of those wild swings found a home. A looping left landed flush, and Inoue went down hard. The Tokyo Dome, packed with loyal fans, fell into stunned silence. Again, Inoue found himself on the canvas. Again, the myth was shattered. And again, he rose. The rest of the round was pure survival. Inoue moved, held, and slipped punches. He did just enough to weather the storm. There was no ego, no attempt to prove a point. Just survival. It was brilliant in its restraint. And then, in round two, he changed the narrative. A sharp, laser-timed counter dropped Nery. The crowd exploded. The balance of the fight shifted back. But more than momentum, it was the psychological edge that returned. Inoue had been hurt, but he'd recalibrated. Nery, for all his aggression, was now in the ring with a man who had seen his worst and was still standing. Rounds 3 and 4 were masterpieces in adjustment. Inoue dissected Nery with feints, body shots, and mind games. He invited mistakes and punished them with ruthless efficiency. Nery, once confident, began to second-guess. His timing faltered. His feet became heavier. And Inoue grew sharper, faster, and more precise, and round 5, Nery went down again. The cumulative damage was becoming too much. The speed of Inoue's counters, the placement of his shots, the subtle head movements, all of it combined into a portrait of dominance. Nery, for all his heart, had no answers left. The sixth round brought the end. A brutal uppercut followed by a picture-perfect right hand dropped Nery for good. But just like in Las Vegas, the real story wasn't the knockout. It was the recovery. It was the rebirth inside the storm, and in both instances, Tokyo and Vegas, Inoue experienced something few great fighters ever allow themselves to encounter, the humbling power of vulnerability. And in both cases, he responded with the kind of excellence that doesn't just restore a reputation, it enhances it. Because greatness isn't defined by how a fighter handles dominance. It's defined by how he handles disaster. What makes Inoue a singular figure in boxing today isn't just his knockout ratio or his belt collection. It's his mind. The ability to remain calm when the canvas rushes up to meet him. The composure to reset in chaos. The decision-making under duress. When most fighters panic or brawl, Inoue becomes even more precise. With a perfect record of 30 wins, no losses, and 27 knockouts, Naoya Inoue stands not just as the king of super bantamweight, but as something more. He's a symbol of evolution. Of what boxing can be when discipline meets destruction. Now, the conversation naturally turns to what lies ahead. He has cleared out the 122-pound division. There are no more titles to unify, no more champions to chase at super bantamweight. The next frontier lies in featherweight, a division filled with big names, bigger bodies, and different stylistic threats. There are challenges there, longer opponents, stronger chins, and unfamiliar rhythms. But none, as of now, carry the same terrifying mixture of skill, power, and psychological discipline as Inoue. The greater challenge might be internal. Can he stay hungry in a sport where riches and reverence often dull the edge? Can he continue to train with the same obsession when there are no doubters left to prove wrong? These are the battles that don't take place under lights, but in the early morning silence of gyms, in the monotony of repetition, in the solitude of self-belief. Boxing's history is filled with fighters who were great but faded when the world no longer pushed back. The truly legendary ones, the Alice, the Durans, the Mayweathers, found ways to remain sharp when they had every excuse to soften. Inoue has shown the capacity to join them. Not just because of what he's done, but because of how he's done it. He doesn't rise from knockdowns to merely survive. He rises to dominate. He doesn't just rebuild, he upgrades, and a sport that demands violence but punishes recklessness and that glorifies courage but exposes ego, Naoya Inoue has crafted a style that feels almost unfair. It's beautiful and brutal, intelligent and instinctive. He has become the rarest of fighters, a technician with the soul of a warrior and the cold blood of an executioner. He doesn't just knock people out. He shows them that even when he falls, he becomes more dangerous. And that's what makes him terrifying. Not just that he wins, but when he gets hurt, he doesn't break, he becomes inevitable.